All right, so what happened with the tariffs? What is Trump doing? Is he crazy? Are we going to see a global meltdown of the financial markets? Let's find out. Hello everybody, my name is Stavros. I'm a professor of international relations and advocate for democracy. You're with me on Black Flag Media. We are monitoring global developments, especially everything that has to do with politics and economics. This is pretty big. Tariffs, the new tariffs wars are pretty big. We had a close call, it seemed, that everybody was going through, things were going through to a global meltdown. But thankfully, it seems that Trump, at the last minute, he said, we're going to be posing these huge tariffs. He posed everything for 3 months, 90 days, and he basically, we're saved for the time being. But let's try and understand what happened and why did it happen. So first and foremost, it seemed that it wasn't Trump's idea to stop these bullying tactics, trying to intimidate everybody. He wanted to put more pressure to other countries, but he had to bend the knee, as it seemed, to Wall Street. Not only Wall Street, it was Wall Street, but it was also the government bonds, the US government bonds. Let's explain a little bit. So the S&P 500 index, basically this is the index which tracks the performance of the largest 500 US publicly traded companies in the US, fell almost 13% during this tariff war crisis that Trump, he was the one who initiated it. Basically, that wiped trillions of dollars. Trillions truly of dollars were wiped off the market value, and this dealt a huge blow to big giants like Apple and Meta and what have you. This was not the biggest problem for Trump, though. The biggest problem was the U.S. government bonds. You know what a government bond is? It's basically, this is a debt, basically, that the U.S., the government says that I owe you. You can buy these bonds, and the government owes you. The government will pay you back. So when you have this kind of a troubled market, people tend to move away from the stock exchange and they start buying government bonds because they feel that they're more trustworthy, right? So you would think that. But when things are really, really bad, such as in this case, people avoid even government bonds. That's why we saw U.S. government bonds taking a hit, and this is what led to Trump panicking. He panicked and he blinked. He was the one to blink first. He actually said that I was watching the bond market. The bond market is very tricky. I was watching it, but if you look at it now, it's beautiful. So he was really, really worried. This was what stopped him. He also said that people were yippee-yappy. People were trading weirdly, and they were getting anxious and afraid. So also, obviously, the stock markets, but most importantly, it was the U.S. government bonds. As you can imagine, things were really, really bad. So that was something that, Trump really had to blink. It seemed, though, that this was part of the plan all along. Part of the plan was to bully people, bully other countries, and then pause the bullying tactics, to bring them to the negotiating table and make them, give concessions to the U.S. This is what Trump does in everything, right? He doesn't mean nothing. He just, tries to bully people and force them into concessions. Nobody actually, I don't think that Trump would he blinked now, but I think he wanted to keep bullying people. He couldn't hold it because of the U.S. government bonds, as we mentioned. But yes, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, said that the pause was part of the strategy all along. I do believe him, but I don't believe that this happened at the time that they had in mind. They were forced to blink, and yes. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Now, what Trump said is that we will pause these tariffs. So there's a baseline tariffs, 10% to everybody, and engage with us and let's work out solutions and we can fix these things. Well, we have many reasons to understand what happened here, right? So number one is that Trump is Trump, and he's trying to bully people into following his crazy ideas, and he's trying to force other countries into concessions. Number two is that he made a lot of money. Big buck was made out of this orchestrated, directed by him and his team, meltdown of the stock exchange, the financial markets, because they went up like more than 10% when he paused these these tariffs, and if you knew that he was going to pause it, you could easily buy at the time and become rich by doing so. He actually said so. He actually he posted on Truth Social that this is a great time to buy. He only posted this though a couple of hours before he actually told us what's going to happen. But it seems that he only did it because he didn't want to be accused of insider trading. But this is what he did, right? You guys know that this is what he did. This is what they did. And it's not just Republicans, obviously, definitely many people, his friends, his family, obviously, he's always working for his family. They enriched themselves by doing this scheme, by buying when the markets were down. So, just hours before they got up again. But you have to be honest, guys. It's not just Trump and his family that they're getting rich. Everybody in politics is corrupt, right? So that's the same thing happened with the Democrats. The Democrats were as corrupt. I would say the Democrats are more corrupt than the Republicans in the U.S. So this is what happened during COVID. Just before, we had the COVID measures before they came public. The Democrats did the same thing. Nancy Pelosi, her staffers also, not only her, they sold airliner stocks. They sold them high because they knew that they would be destroyed, dismantled, and then they bought them back pretty cheap for pennies, right? So that's why they make huge bucks backed by being short on the airliners, on United Airlines, etc. And they knew obviously beforehand that these measures would be published, and there wouldn't be any international trade, what have you. So many people got rich. This is what politicians do all the time. So this is a big thing, the idea that this is a great time to buy. Number two, always remember, guys, a tariff is a tax. So the Republicans, they're not for taxes. This is the standard political stance that they have. They're all for tax cuts and tax breaks. They don't like taxes. They're saying the less government, the better for the people. So they cannot do that. This is anathema. This is taboo. For the Republican president to tax the people would be crazy. So what they're doing is, the reverse. They're taxing them indirectly. That's what a tariff is. So a tariff is, let's say you have a company that creates, like toys or something, that sells toys domestically in the US. You're buying plastic basic stuff for your toys from China. You need that because that's part of your supply chain. You need that to actually build the toy to sell it domestically in the US. You will keep buying these products from abroad, from your whoever is supplying your supplier, whoever is your supplier. Let's say China is supplying you, you will keep buying from China, so you will pay the difference. Generally speaking, that's what a tariff is. I'm not talking specifically about, because these levels that Trump has put on tariffs that he has put against China, makes things doesn't work. It doesn't work. The things that don't work anymore. But let's say, ideally speaking, that's what a tariff is, right? So you tax people indirectly. They will have to. They will keep buying things from abroad. They will keep importing. They will pay the price themselves just because it's part of their business. So you're taxing them, but without saying you're taxing them. You're saying, I'm helping domestic production. You're not, because this is not possible, especially if you import things that you don't have domestically, right? Let's say rare earth materials. You cannot produce them locally. You have to import them. So that's also a part of that, an indirect tax. Also, what he did was he wanted, obviously, to target Beijing. This was his target from the get-go. He targeted Beijing. He posed all the other tariffs. Now the tariff level against Beijing is 145%, because it's 125 plus 25 plus the 20% tax, which was pre-existing. This was the targeting of China because of China's participation in fentanyl, the production of fentanyl in the opioid crisis in the U.S. In this instance, the U.S. is right. China is part to blame here, so that 20% is accurate. So that's 145 total. Interestingly, the Chinese taxed the Chinese tariffs are 125%, which excludes the 20% fentanyl, because it seems that they agree to that. They can understand that it's legitimate, isn't it? Because they're part to blame. So what Trump is doing is basically he's doing two things. He's saying to China that you're my archenemy, and let's see who blinks first. And on the one hand, the other hand, he's saying to the rest of the world that let's make a deal. Let's make a deal that I would like. Interestingly, the EU was about to implement their own set of tariffs, and when Trump stopped when he paused his own tariffs. The EU stopped as well. The problem though is that the 10% base tax still stands against the EU. So this was an easy way. Let's say even if we stay at 10% tariff against the EU, this is something that the EU accepted it, right? So at the time being, we have a US tariff on EU products at 10%, which was a strategy, to talk about the maximal pressure. And let's say we can, we can present the 10% like a concession, and the Europeans can also present that as a win domestically. So this is also a win if you think about it. So yeah, this is also what happened. So push people, he was threatening with 25, he did 10, and it's 25 on EU products on industrial goods like steel, aluminum, plus items created with them like cars and car parts. Also pharmaceutical tariffs might also be coming. And at the same time, during this 90 days pause, Trump is saying, let's talk concessions. He actually called on the EU to spend an additional $350 billion on American fossil fuels to basically, for us Europeans, to buy more natural gas basically from the US. So he is saying, let's do a trade that will persuade me to keep you at 10%. Again, the 10% is the concession, even though this is the biggest tariff that we have in the last decade from the US. But at the same time, he's asking for more, right? So he's basically saying this is the maximum level of pressure. If you don't like it, let's negotiate. Let's see what you can give me. Same goes for Asian allies like South Korea, for instance. In this instance, Trump wants concessions by asking access to and cooperation in Korean shipbuilding, the automotive sector, and energy sales. So he's asking for all these kind of concessions. As you can imagine, this is something. Also, he's asking from the EU, which has merit. He's asking the European Commission to delay the tariffs. We have this crazy loonies here in the EU. They have this Digital Service Act, which is basically a neo-fascist act against, websites, and they're going to be targeting, Elon Musk's X, Meta, Zuckerberg's Meta, etc. So Trump is saying you should stop doing. You shouldn't fine our companies. And actually, the EU they placed an executive hold on these fines, which is also something that Trump did with these tariffs. I remember Elon Musk saying that the best thing would be to have a free trade agreement between the EU and US, and maybe that's what Trump wants as well. Friedrich Merz, the incoming Chancellor of Germany, actually said so. He said that, yes, we're determined to fight back, but the best thing we can do is join together and impose a 0% tariffs, and then the problem will be solved, which is something that, goes back to what Elon Musk said. Maybe this was the idea all along. This was the idea from the get-go. So also, there is an opportunity for countries that already compete against China. They have now a huge incentive to reach trade deals between them or with the US. So if you have a competing economy with the Chinese, you may like to have the Chinese the only targets of the US and maybe make a deal with the US bilaterally. So, yeah, this could also work. Again, we'll see how things develop, because some Europeans, they say, we don't like, being bullied. We had the Prime Minister of Spain, Mr. Sanchez, in Beijing, and he was basically saying that the EU and China should work together against the US. The Chinese are correctly saying that we would ask for the World Trade Organization, to protect us. We will sue the US there, and they're right, because the US is still the World Trade Organization was basically founded by the US after World War II to make sure that there's free trade, because it suited the US. Now that it doesn't suit, they cannot ignore the rules and have two standards, play by their own rules. So the Chinese are really right in suing the US in the WTO. Also, they're saying that the huge crisis that was created, like so many amount of money were lost, the US should pay for that, and they should pay the price for the crisis that they created. And also, it seems that a recession is coming, and we're not safe yet. Who knows what's going to happen in 90 days? And not only that, even if nothing bad happens, we still have a recession coming. Even major players in U.S. politics, like Republicans, like Senator Ted Cruz, he's saying that if we have a recession, there's going to be a bloodbath in the midterm elections in the U.S. Republicans are going to get butchered. So yes. And if you ask me, sure, the U.S. should pay the price for this crisis that they created to try to bully everybody. So let's see if China finds a way to work with the Europeans against the U.S. It seems that it would be fair and right, considering that the U.S. is trying to strong-arm people around Well, let's see find out. What do you guys think? Let's see what things are, how things are going to look in 3 months from now. What are your opinions, right? So that's what I would like to hear. But yes, this is it for today, guys. We'll keep monitoring this topic. It's really, really important. If you did like what you see, please like and subscribe. There's going to be more videos like this down the pipe. So yes, thank you for watching, and keep raising the black. Thank you. I think that Trump thought that they can do whatever they want to and there will be no repercussions, US against the whole world. That's not the world anymore. It seems that the economic geography of the world has already changed in favor of, the non-Western world, the BRICS and all that. And this only empowers these kind of countries grouping up together against the US. So I think that they thought that they would win against the world, but it seems that the US is weak now more than ever against the whole world community, and it's proper if you think about it. Also, another crazy thought is that maybe Trump thought that we can have, or maybe he's thinking it right now, we can have a global economic crisis and meltdown, and we could emerge in a stronger position than we are right now because they're losing against the Chinese. So yes, maybe they're thinking, let's blow everything up and maybe we'll be stronger than the Chinese are after this crisis and we can maintain our hegemony.